Welcome in, everybody. Thank you for coming back here on DMW Sports to preview the 2025 San Francisco Niners coming in as the number 9 team on my NFL Power Rankings. Good to talk about this team today. Obviously, had a bad season last year, went through a lot of injuries, but this is a place in which you believe in the infrastructure in place. Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have a track record of success with their ability to take even some bad seasons and turn them into good seasons next up. And so I believe the 49ers are, in fact, going to be able to do it again with how their roster is looking, and in fact that getting some guys back healthy. So happy to dig into this team, their team direction again, kind of talking about where it kind of looks like Cal Shanahan and this team tends to have some down years and then they have to come back up after. It's a little bit of a roller coaster, but still, shout out Cal Shanahan, positions himself as one of the best head coaches in the National Football League, gets an A grade from me. The 49ers front office led by John Lynch is an A minus for me. Again, the ability to continue to find talent on both sides of the ball and be able to put around them. And, obviously the Trey Lance swing was a massive miss, but you mitigate that by being able to find Brock Purdy and make him work within this offense as well. So I think that they combine for one of the best head coaching and front office duos in the National Football League here in San Francisco, and the track record of success here certainly does say as much, as obviously they've been to 2 Super Bowls in recent memory, been to NFC Championship games multiple times in addition to that. And now I've put together an offseason that certainly is going to be interesting going into this 2025 season. So let's talk about that offseason review. Offseason review, and obviously there's a long list as far as the subtractions are concerned. Trade away Jordan Mason to the Minnesota Vikings. Trade away Deebo Samuel to the Washington Commanders. Jalen Moore leaves in free agency to the Kansas City Chiefs. Aaron Banks, guard that has continued to provide depth for this team, also leaves in free agency. Leonard Floyd moves on in free agency, kind of the defensive end that was opposite of Bosa last year. Dre Greenlaw goes over to the Denver Broncos, as does Talanoa Hufanga. 2 pieces lost off of this team. Dre Greenlaw never really regained his form as a will linebacker in the system next to Fred Warner. Talanoa Hufanga obviously dealt with injuries on a consistent basis at the safety position. Charvarius Ward had an incredibly tragic year off the field, ultimately affected his on the field play, and moves over to the Indianapolis Colts. It was a really good cornerback run for this team and this defense specifically. Devondre Campbell had a lot of issues when he came over to the 49ers, never really found his footing as far as that's concerned, the level of play that he had with the Packers previously. And so as far as the additions are concerned, went out and signed Demarcus Robinson for some wide receiver depth coming out from the Rams. He is dealing with a suspension to start the year, so he will not be there to begin the 2025 season. Luke Farrell to add some tight end depth. Mac Jones also backup quarterback. And then Brian Robinson Jr. traded from the Commanders to be needed insurance for Christian McCaffrey after some of the Jordan James stuff, which I'll talk about in the drafted. And then also the Isaiah Guerrero. Both of those guys ended up getting hurt and banged up during preseason, so they had to be out there and find that suitable backup for Brian Robinson Jr. To step into, which, given Christian McCaffrey's injuries, he could factor in. And at the very least, he is a nice change of pace for what CMC brings to the table, in my opinion. As far as the draft is concerned, first round pick out of Georgia, MYKEL Williams, a guy that has all the traits in the world to be a really good edge rusher in the National Football League as a true defensive end. He's going to come in my opinion, and be able to defend the run well from day one. And I think this is an interesting distinction to make. MYKEL Williams coming into the 49ers, for me, is a little bit different than a guy like Shamar Stewart going to the Cincinnati Bengals from the aspect of this. The 49ers have a proven track record of being able to produce and develop defensive end and really defensive line in general, that talent as far as that is concerned. And that extends to guys like Alfred Collins, that extends to guys like CJ West as well. I expect that they will be able to continue that tradition and being able to get better play out of these guys over the course of their careers that maybe other people may not have been able to. And that is going to be something that you have to continue to watch for what the development for these guys is going to ultimately look like. Nick Martin in the 3rd round, brought in to add some linebacker depth. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of get into that top 2 with D. Winters currently holding down the fort as far as next to Fred Warner. Upton Stout adds to the cornerback depth of this team. Jordan James, like I talked about, running back prospect out of Oregon. An interesting player, but a guy that I thought could have worked as far as his own system is concerned. Ultimately, again, banged up, so not going to actually be there. Well, we'll see if he's there to start the season, but understandably behind Brian Robinson Jr. at the least. And then Connor Colby, there it is, Connor Colby to add to the interior offensive line depth as well. This team needs. So with that being said, as far as expectations, I think that this team expects to have a bounce back season, healthy. with CMC, with George Kittle, the veterans on the team, Bosa, Warner, and be back at the top of the NFC West. And I think that the division itself is wide open for that to end up happening. With that being said, let's talk about Mr. Brock Purdy. So let's talk about Brock Purdy. Last year, I do believe that he actually improved as a quarterback, and I know it's going to sound kind of crazy, but you talk about the limitations for Brock Purdy. He doesn't have an exceptional arm, a solid one. Obviously, the stature is a little bit of a question mark. How often is he, taking those risks? It can sometimes get him into trouble, and then also the ability to really get outside the pocket. He has some athleticism. It's still not something that is an exceptional part of his game as far as being able to avoid sacks and mitigate those as well. But I thought his decision making did improve. I thought that he showed that he was really under pressure, be able to create explosives and get to the intermediate areas of the field that you're seeing right now. I was impressed by Brock Purdy watching back the tape because, again, the circumstances around him was difficult. The offensive line was going through things. Obviously, CMC was in and out of the lineup. Brandon Ayuk ended up getting hurt. They had a lot of things not go well for that offense last year, but he still was able to try and get them on a week-to-week basis to try and be in games on a consistent aspect. So I wanted to give a tip of the cap as far as Brock Purdy. Again, obviously, Mr. Irrelevant, the way in which he's worked to become where he is in the National Football League is impressive. Earned a contract as far as the 49ers are concerned. Now looks to be their franchise quarterback for years to come. And again, there are always going to be limitations to him, but the fact that he has the ability to improve is going to be something that is certainly a good thing for moving forward as well. So he comes in at 14th on my quarterback rankings. Again, solid guy in the National Football League and somebody that, can continue to climb if he continues to show the improvement that he did last year. And I like what things will look like. So let's talk about the roster around Brock Purdy going into 2025. As far as the offense coming into the season, you'll see a few interesting changes. Obviously, MVS is added to this roster in the wide receiver room as a late addition. They traded for Sky Moore right before cut down day because they needed wide receiver depth. Again, Demarcus Robinson not going to be able to start the year. Brandon Ayuk out at least until the middle of the season. Jawan Jennings was questionable. Seems like he's on track to play. He had a little bit of a holdout situation, but I guess he's healthy now. And Ricky Pearsall, obviously, first round pick from a year ago, now looking to step up into this wide receiver room. Obviously, the big news is they got rid of Deebo Samuel. How they adjust off of that is going to be interesting to see as well. As far as the offensive line, Trent Williams is the headliner here. Still a great left tackle in the National Football League. He is still is he the top of the top for me personally? No, but he's still a great one. The rest of the offensive line, a little bit shaky. Left guard, Ben Batch, left guard, a little bit shaky. Jake Brindle at center. Right tackle, Colt McKivitz has had his issues as well. The real one that I like a lot is Dominic Pruney coming out of the third round out of Kansas last year. I thought he proved to be a good interior offensive lineman and a good guard option for this team. The rest is kind of in flux, and they need some better play from these guys at these positions. But Kyle Shanahan and this team has always treated offensive linemen as kind of secondary for what they want to do on offense, which is an interesting strategy, but one that's worked out in the past. And we'll see if they're able to hit on that bet once again. Tight end position, headlined by George Kittle, who is a top 2 tight end in the National Football League. Elite blocker, elite catching the football as well. Luke Farrell comes in to add some some tight end depth in that aspect as well. Mac Jones, backup quarterback. Christian McCaffrey, Brian Robinson Jr. We kind of talked about during the offseason review what that is going to look like. Christian McCaffrey still has the talent to be, an incredibly dangerous dual threat as far as the running back position is concerned. Just as the health going to be there. And Isaac Garendo and Jordan James are also there in the running back room. And then Kyle Juszczyk, best fullback in the National Football League. A lot of versatility for what he brings to the table that Shanahan likes to use as well, with a tight end, a fullback, even true running back as well, and in all those different ways. So with that being said, let's get to the defense. So as far as his defense is concerned, headlined by Nick Bosa along the defensive line. He is the veteran here. He is a top 10 edge rusher in the National Football League. He has the ability to defend well against the run. And then you look at, hey, they're counting on a lot of guys elsewhere to kind of step up. Elliot Jordan, fine interior defensive lineman. Kalia Davis, okay. But it's those two guys right there. CJ Russ, Alfred Collins, two guys that I liked coming out of the draft. Both of them can defend the run, in my opinion, at a high level, especially CJ Russ coming out of Indiana. Alfred Collins adds a little bit more pass rush juice, and upside is going to be something to watch. MYKEL Williams looking to step in and be the starter next to opposite, I should say, of Nick Bosa in that edge room at the defensive end position. Again, I think he will step in from day one and be a good run defender with his size and his power that he plays with. It's going to be the aspect of how well he can put together the pass rush tools is going to be the question of how big of an impact he can have as a rookie. Bryce Huff behind him, provides a little bit of depth. Didn't have a good year after getting a pretty good sized contract from Philly, but obviously at least could be a useful backup player. Same thing for Yoto Gross Matos coming over from Carolina. D Winter steps in to be the will linebacker next to Fred Warner with Nick Martin behind him. Be interesting to see if he can hold Nick Martin off of that position as well. As far as the cornerback room is concerned, and I shouldn't just skip over Fred Warner. Fred Warner is the best linebacker in the National Football League. He deserves to do. Awesome in coverage, good against the run. Ronaldo Green is the guy that I'm watching for this cornerback room. There's a lot of variance as far as what this talent kind of looks like, especially Travis Ward moving on. Diamador Lenore, I think, has his moments, but still can be got. Upton Stout, again, you're asking for a lot for him to step in as a third-round rookie into that nickel position. We'll see if he's able to do it. Ronaldo Green is somebody I liked a lot at FSU as a physical corner. The way in which the Niners want to play defense makes a lot of sense. I think that he can have himself a really good year and be able to step in. Is he going to be, Travaris level cornerback one? A little bit, high expectations for him. Can he be a good corner? I think that is possible as well. Safety room is very interesting. Again, Hufanga moves on. Jair Brown now staring at a starting spot. Then Jason Pinnick next to him. There are some question marks as far as the safety room is concerned and how it's going to ultimately look, especially while Malik Mustafa tries to recover from that ACL tear that he suffered in week 18 last year. So they need him to come back. Hopefully he'll be back around the middle of the season to really add and help out this safety room, because right now it's a little bit thin as well. So when you're talking about the roster spots and what this kind of roster looks like on paper, I would say the offense gets a B plus. Still have the stars that can really elevate the rest of the team. You can build things off of what Trent Williams brings to the table. Defensive wise, it's a C plus, and it's a C plus that's very variable. Again, can CJ West be a good run stuffer? Alfred Collins, can he be a three down interior player? MYKEL Williams, can he be the run stuffer and then have a better pass rush plan than we saw from Georgia and use that athleticism effectively? Can Nick Barton or D Winters step up that game to be a little bit better complement for Fred Warner? Ronaldo Green, can he get better? Upton Stout, can he be effective nickel? Malik Mustafa, how quickly does he get back into the safety room? There's a lot of question marks. So I put it as C plus because you still got Bosa and Fred Warner to kind of have the building blocks to build off of. And I do believe in what Robert Saleh can do. It's just, hey, I got to see these things first and where that development really comes from to really believe in it. So as far as that is concerned, let's go ahead and get to my first breakout. As far as my first breakout player is concerned, it is that first round pick from a year ago, Mr. Ricky Pearsall. And of course, obviously he had a lot of talk coming out of Florida. He really rose up some draft boards, ultimately be taken in the first round. Unfortunately, he got off to, I shouldn't say he got off to, but his career in San Francisco got off to a tragic start in many ways. Unfortunately, was a victim of a robbery and got shot in the chest. And fortunately, God bless, was ultimately to get back and work his way back into playing this season, or last season, I should say, which is crazy to say after being shot. And ultimately returned and I thought showed some good things on tape. The ability to separate in the intermediate areas of the field, being a good athlete at the wide receiver position. Wouldn't say exceptional, but a good athlete. Consistent hands as well, and also a nice chemistry with Brock Purdy and some timing on these routes that he really trusted him to get out of breaks and say, hey, I can get the ball to him as well. And so I think that he is going to be a real key, especially early on in the season, for this offense to show well, because he is going to be relied upon while Brandon Ayuk comes back from the injury. And then if you're talking about with Brandon Ayuk, if he can hit the ground running when he does come back, and then obviously Jawan Jennings being in this offense, and what that can look like too, then you're talking about, okay, well, this offense really can get back to really being a top 5 unit in the National Football League for what the weapons look like. So I think Ricky Pearsall has a shot at 1,000-yard season. Maybe that'll be a little bit too much. But again, I think that he is in line for a really good season for the San Francisco 49ers. And I like what he brings to the table. So with that being said, let's talk about what's got me excited to watch the 49ers in 2025. And it has to do with the guy that's pictured here, Mr. Dominic Pruney. And I'm interested to see what exactly he will do in the San Francisco 49ers offense. And I say that because as a rookie, you're trying to get your footing. And I thought that he did a solid enough job at the guard position. Now they just had a year in the system. Does Kyle Shanahan try to put some more on the plate and be able to try and weaponize him? I think that he has a really good athleticism for the position. I think he's a good run blocker and pass blocker. If you can use him in some of those creative Shanahan offensive systems, and then obviously consistently consistently being a really good zone blocker, that is going to be something early on, given what the rest of this offensive line kind of looks like, where you want to maybe keep it a little bit more simple for the other guys outside of Trent Williams. Can you weaponize Dominic Pruny, particularly in the run game, to be able to find some advantages for Kyle Shanahan? So that's going to be something I'll be watching, and I'm excited to watch for the 2025 San Francisco 49ers. My concern for the San Francisco 49ers coming up this year, it does have to do with those young defenders. MYKEL Williams' picture here, I think a lot is going to be put on his plate, again, to be a good run defender to start out, but also to provide a pass rush choose outside of Nick Bosa on this team. And like I talked about, guys like Renardo Green, guys like Jared Brown, guys like Diamonor Lenore, guys like Upton Stout, those guys are going to be relied upon to step up and be able to add to this defense. And then you talk about guys like CJ West and Alfred Collins to try and upgrade the interior defensive line position. They are trusting Robert Saleh and his defensive coaching staff to really get a lot out of these young players. And that's a real concern, because if it doesn't go that way, then you're talking about there are some real holes on this team as far as the depth chart is concerned, and places for teams to attack. And then you're putting more on Nick Bosa's plate that ultimately can get him into trouble for the aggressive style of play in which he wants to operate with, if teams can attack him and get other people out of position as well. So that is my major concern, but I also do believe in Robert Saleh and what they can end up doing. So I think more than likely it works out well, but it is something that I think could end up holding this team back in 2025. I think Brock Purdy, as a hot take, has improved to the level in which he has justified the contract that he ended up getting. And I think that when the contract came out, people were a little bit taken aback by the money, and they were like, they're just coming out for this season. Why are you paying them? I think when you see the ability to continue to get better that Brock Purdy has demonstrated, and the way in which he can operate this offense, you understand why they want him to be their franchise quarterback, and it makes a lot of sense. And he did get better last year, and I think that was one of the more under talked about things in last year's NFL season, that he did improve as far as the tape was concerned. Even throughout all of the circumstances around him that did not go well, he was able to try and be a steadying force as well. So I wanted to give Brock Purdy a little bit of credit here. Let's get to the bold prediction. Bold prediction for the 2025 49ers is that Christian McCaffrey, if healthy, will have 2,000 yards from scrimmage. And obviously a lot of that will include receiving. I think that he'll be a consistent option out of the backfield. And that, he looked good as far as that was concerned when he did come back. Now, you're talking about Achilles tendonitis, that is going to be a real question. And if you're taking him in fantasy, obviously you're talking about he's high risk, high reward. I would suggest trying to secure Brian Robinson Jr. to say the least. But I think he's in position to be able to consistently, produce for this offense. And we've never seen him not produce for this offense whenever he's been out there on the field. And so ultimately, as far as the record prediction is concerned, I have them 11-6 and currently winning the NFC West. I will make a amendment to that in a later video that I'll end up making as far as the season preview. But I do believe that this team bounces back and has itself a really good season as well under Kyle Shanahan. So with that being said, I appreciate you guys for coming by to the 2025 San Francisco 49ers season preview. Please like this video, watch the other ones, like those as well. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube here at DMW Sports. We're also on TikTok and Twitter, also at DMW Sports, and Sports DMW on Instagram.